The distance between point C and point D is 13. C is -3/8 and D is 9, y. Solve for y. So yesterday we learned the distance formula, and you practiced it in your homework. Yesterday's homework was very, very, very important. Practice. It had Pythagorean theorem, one-dimensional distance and two-dimensional distance on it. Now, this warm-up, notice how it says warm-up K. We didn't give this warm-up to L because this is a deeper warm-up. This one takes a few more steps. So let's talk about how we might do this. I told you yesterday that when you are doing the distance formula, to always start with a template. This was at the very end of class, right before the bell rang. We're going to start with a template, and that's an empty distance formula with nothing filled in. Now, this warm-up is kind of like Jeopardy! I have the answer, and I need to know the question. So I already know the answer. The answer is 13. I already know what it's going to equal. I just need to find one of the coordinates. So then I taught you that to keep everything straight, you circle your X's and you underline your Y's. And we agreed, you helped me agree, that when we put those coordinates into the distance formula, the order doesn't matter because we're going to end up squaring it. And so that's going to cancel out a negative if a negative happens. So you take the two that are circled and you throw them into one of the parentheses, my X minus my X, and then my Y minus my Y. Okay? Okay. Now we're going to start to clean this up. Let's start to clean it up. What is -3 minus 9 squared? 144. It's 12 squared. Very good. So now I've got the square root of 144 plus 8 minus y squared equals 13. Now we're in trouble because we have to isolate y. And the way that you isolate a variable is by doing the opposite of what's being done to it. So one at a time, we're going to start to do the opposite of what's being done to y. We have to start from the outside in. So what is the opposite of square rooting something? Nope, 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 nope. Can't subtract 144. What's the opposite of square rooting something? The way to get rid of that radical, the way to get rid of the square root is to square it. So the square and the square root are going to cancel. We're going to have 144 plus 8 minus y squared equals 169. Did I lose anybody yet? On the left side, all I did was remove the radical. Did I touch anything underneath that square root sign? No. On the right side, all I did was square it, because whatever you do to one side, you must also do to the other. Now let's do what you were saying. Now let's subtract 144 from both sides. We're slowly peeling away at everything that's surrounding y. We're doing it one term at a time. What is 169 minus 144? 25, okay? 8 minus y squared equals 25. What's the next layer? 8 minus y squared. We need to get rid of that squared. What's the opposite of squaring something? Square rooting. So, we square root both sides. The squared and the square root are going to cancel. So on the left, we have 8 minus y. Now, this is the tricky part, and most of you did not realize this. The square root of 25 is not just 5. The square root of 25 is positive and negative 5, plus or minus 5. So now we have to solve two equations. Now we get to solve two equations. 8 minus y equals 5, and 8 minus y equals negative 5. We haven't really done an algebra review in this class, so this might be difficult for some people. We are going to do an algebra review next week, but this is, like I said, why this is K level. So if I solve this one, I get that y is 3, And if I solve this one, I get y is what, 13? Yep. There are two answers to this problem. There are two answers. Y equals 3 and y equals 13. And I can't wait to show you why there's two answers. It's really cool. Okay, so the reason that there are two answers is, let's plot this. Okay, so we get a new page. And where's my, sorry, I'm trying to get fancy. Okay, I'm getting fancy here. So C was at -3, let's just call this 8. D is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. So D is at 9, but we don't know what Y is, so it's somewhere at x equals 9. And the length is 13. So what I'm saying here is that if the length is 13, and I have to start here, this is C, where could I place D on that vertical line where the length would be 13? And there's actually two places. It could fall here or here. Do you kind of see what's going on? This is the answer 3 and this is the answer 13. I need my segment to be 13 units long. Well, I could go 13 kind of up this way and I could go 13 down this way. And that's why there's two answers. I hope that kind of makes sense. You have to start at C and you have to end on that vertical line. And there's two places where you could end where your distance would be 13. So I'm showing my work again on the left. I'm showing my work. This is a rare case where you would have to work backwards. This is a challenge problem. Are you going to see this over and over again? No. Will you maybe see this one more time somewhere, maybe on a quiz, maybe a test? Yes. You'll probably see it once, but this isn't something we're going to do over and over and over again. This was a challenge problem. Now let's get to the problems that shouldn't have been as challenging. Let's get to your homework answers. Homework answers. There's the first couple pages of homework answers. I hope the homework was easy. Yes. Some people got confused about what number 4 and 5 meant, but once you figured out what it was asking you to do, you're like, oh, that was a piece of cake. So take a look at your answers. I'll go to the next page in a minute. And that's the rest of it, right? It only goes to number 12. So yeah, that should be the rest of it. Oh, there should have been two answers on this one, right? She didn't write the other one. It looks like AB is also congruent to CD if she did her distance formula right. Did y'all get that on number 8? Did y'all get two segments that were congruent? Good. Okay. So the girl who typed this up missed one of those. That's okay. Yep. All right. Number 2 is the first one I'm going to work. Now, when we are solving a right triangle, when we're solving for a missing side in a right triangle, we are going to use Pythagorean theorem. Now, the steps are going to be a tiny bit different whether you're looking for a hypotenuse versus a leg. In number 1, you're looking for the hypotenuse. So it's really basic. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. But in number 2, you're not looking for the hypotenuse. You're not looking for the hypotenuse, you're looking for a leg. We rotated that triangle for you. We did that, not for you. We did that on purpose to make sure that you knew you were looking for a leg. So honestly, I would just do this. I would go straight to that step. Sure, you can write step number 1 if you want, but when you're looking for a leg, you're going to be subtracting. And when you're looking for a hypotenuse, you're going to be adding. When you're looking for a leg, you want your number to be smaller than the hypotenuse, so think subtract. So if you take the square root of 26 squared minus 9 squared, you will get 24.39. Next one that I was asked about is 3b. 3b. CE. So we talked about to find the distance between 2 points, you always subtract. You always subtract, you always subtract. So on that one, we're doing 33 minus 6. So this one is 27. And BA, you subtract the coordinates. Here's B and here's A. Now the order doesn't matter because whatever you get, you're going to make your answer positive. So negative 11 minus negative 29. 18. CE is larger, and so that's why it's a greater than sign. Okay. Next one I was asked about is number 5. This one you plot your points. Negative 1, 1. That's R. 3, negative 4. That is S. And T, they didn't tell you the whole coordinate. This is not as hard as the warm-up, don't worry. You know that you have to form a right triangle, so you can either go up and over, or you can go across and up. You know what I mean? There's 2 places T could go. Oh, but it says that T has to be somewhere at negative 4, so T has to be somewhere over here. So I know that to make my right triangle, sorry, it's not that X was negative 4, Y was negative 4. Will it let me erase? Yeah. So it has to be somewhere on this green line, this Tanton's fault. And if it has to fall on that green line, then it's going to have to be there because we know it's a right triangle. Once we know where that point is, now we can find delta X. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can find delta Y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So you're really taking the square root of, you're just doing Pythagorean theorem. Last one, number 12. A helicopter at 80-20 needs to fly to the nearest hospital. If the hospital locations are at 20, 60, and 110, 85, which hospital should the helicopter fly? So what you're really saying is that you're here at 80-20. You have 2 choices, 2 places that you could go. You could go over here to hospital U, or you could go over here to hospital V. You just need to find the distance from T to U, find the distance to T from T to V, and then you want to fly to the one that's closer. So you're going to pick the one that has the shorter distance. So the distance to one of the hospitals was 72. The distance to the other hospital was 71.6. And so you're going to want to go to hospital V because it's a little bit closer. This one was a little bit closer. You had to do the distance formula 2 times. You had to do the distance formula 2 times.